Hello and welcome to another episode of Soul Nectar show that talks about all things essence, where we gather around the campfire and we share our stories of awakening, of new realizations, of heart opening, of calling to purpose, of our soul's sacred journey. And when we hear each other's stories around the campfire, it just wakes us up. It wakes us up to our own journey. It helps us to see those sacred moments in our own lives, and it helps us to have hope and inspiration that if that hasn't happened for us yet, that it's gonna happen at some point, and we know what to look for: something similar, something different, something amazing, something unexpected. And so I love to guide this journey. I am your host, Carrie Hummingbird, and I really love helping people to take those first few steps on their own sacred journey across the threshold. So scary when you get across to, when you approach the threshold of your journey, you're like, I don't want to see it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to know. It's scary. It's going to change. Everything's going to change. And then you know what happens when you cross it? It's like magic. Like, wow, I don't even know why I was resisting this thing. This is amazing. I'm so happy to be on this journey. That's like happens every time. So I really encourage you, if you haven't taken the journey yet, start the journey, take a step. I'm a helpful guide. If I'm one guide, and there's lots of guides out there. So find someone that really resonates for you and that opens you up and gives you joy and gives you inspiration and makes you feel like, wow, anything is possible. Because in fact, anything is possible. And so today I'm really excited to have my friend Scott Schilling with us. Welcome, Scott.
Well, I thank you. I mean, I'm excited to be here. This is the fun part of this all,
This
right?
is
Things
this
we
is the
we
fun.
share. This is the fun.
We're going to have fun today. So Scott has a really interesting story, and we're going to hear all about it. But who is he today? Who is he today? Well, he is, this is such a cool title. He is the significance expert. That's pretty cool. And he's a co-founder of U Plus One. We're going to find out more about that. But it's an organization committed to living a lifestyle of moments and memories through his TV show, podcast, speaking, training, consulting, and coaching. So this is the things that he does. He helps people and organizations to systematically grow personally, professionally, financially, and spiritually. No matter where you are in your path, from survival to success to significance, Scott gives the guidance, direction, and action steps necessary to get you from where you are to where you want to be. And he's got over 35 years of life experience in sales and marketing and training that he uses when he works with companies and business owners, entrepreneurs, and individuals. So he's a big speaker, been speaking in a lot of places, lots and lots of places. And he actually shared the stage with General Colin Powell. Wow. And Rudy Giuliani.
Hmm.
Wow, and the former First Lady Laura Bush. Dang,
Lots of fun.
that's amazing. Well, so okay, now we're sufficiently impressed with Scott. So, Scott,
Why, thank you.
yeah,
It almost sounds as if I wrote that.
yeah, you might have, or your publicist. So, tell us more about you, Scott. Like, what about your journey? What's been so significant about your journey that has led you to this place where you have such a big passion with your U Plus One platform, and you really want to be of service and you want to give back and you want to help people connect? Like, what started all that? What spurred that within you?
Yeah, it's really interesting. You don't recognize sometimes what is the where the seed was planted and the germination point and all that. But for me, it actually started way back when, probably 17 years old, reading "See You at the Top" by Zig Ziglar for the first time. And there was a quote in that book that I that just touched my heart and kind of became my life creed, my life work. Um, I didn't know that at that time, but the quote is very simple. You can have everything in life you want when you simply help enough other people get what they want.
Ah,
And so it was something that from a very early age um, got imparted to me, and I embodied it, and it became again like that credo that you right. So how can I be of service? Because I know if ultimately if I'm of service, good things will happen for me. I don't serve because of those good things. I serve because I serve. But I know that when I serve, good things happen.
yeah, it's interesting. The intent behind the giving and the serving makes a huge difference, right? Like, your
Yeah.
intention of giving and serving creates an outcome based on your intention. Like,
Well, it really is. And it's one thing that I talk about, and there are many talks I open up with this, that I actually give my pre-event prayer to the audience. Lord, allow the words I share here today to positively impact 100% of lives in this audience in one way, shape, or form. Only you know who you sent here to hear this message. Allow me to do the best I can to deliver that message, be a vehicle and of service to you. All I can control is a high intention and a low attachment as to how this presentation will come out. A high intention of imparting something valuable to each and every one of you, and a low attachment as to what that is specifically. I hope there's a ton of nuggets as we do this here today, but which nugget is for you? That's beyond my pay grade. It's put out the nuggets and let the rest fall as they may.
I love that. Put out the gold nuggets and let people harvest them for themselves.
Yep.
Because your voice will speak to a certain number of people in a certain way, and something you say will resonate, and that will add to the seeds. Like, I feel like it's like lots of seeds get planted in the
Right.
soil, and then all of a sudden the next person says exactly the same thing that 50 other people said to you. But because they said it, or just the energy of it, or just because it was the tipping point, like
Right.
now all of a sudden, bam, it like registers.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because as a sales trainer, much of my career, and I still am to this day, but there was a Notre Dame study that basically detailed why you have to present over and over and over again. The genesis of it, or the short answer to it, is 94% of all salespeople stop presenting after the fourth time. The reason that's so relevant is that 60% of all transactions are happening in the fifth time or after. So it doesn't make any. Do you understand? This communication is a sale. In other words, not in that there's a transaction happening here, but there's a point of being or a point of view that's being shared with somebody for consideration. That's what a sales presentation is. It's
Yeah,
nothing more, right?
this is that, because we're sharing, like, Soul Nectar Show. I don't know how many episodes I've got now, like maybe 60 or more. I don't know how many, a lot. And every one of them is sharing the point of view that anything is possible.
Exactly.
And
And
take your journey,
so the point is, you don't get frustrated by the fact you have to repeat and be consistent and say the same thing, and live your passion and live your purpose. The reason you have to do that, how you do anything is how you do everything. You've got to do it over and over and over again, and the right person will take that, will notice it or take that piece of information at the exact right time for them.
when
So
they're
it's
ready to hear it. And so when the
exactly,
student is ready, the teacher appears, and not a moment before.
exactly.
They could be
And
standing in front of you the whole time and you don't even see them.
and this is typically called parents. What do you mean? You've never said this to me before. What do you mean? I've said it to you every day for like 20
Every
years.
day. I tell you every day to clean your room, get your room all organized so that you'll like have a better week and you'll be more organized and you'll feel better about yourself. And they're like, why do I clean my room? And then you say it
Yeah,
again.
exactly. See, it's all practical.
It is all practical. So now, so you heard this quote and it really impacted you. And you started exploring this idea about intention. Like, what is my intention with helping people? Is my intention to get something at the other side? Or is my intention like I'm doing it because I just feel it in my heart and I'm just doing what my heart says? I mean, there's all these ways of exploring this. I know, because I've been on the journey of exploring that exact same question. So like, tell me about your perspective on it.
Well, it's really, servant leadership. It's the servant, my first book, Talking with Giants, actually the premise of the book is generosity builds prosperity, not the other way around. We give and we get. We don't give to get, but the natural byproduct of giving is getting. So again, we don't prosper first, then give. We give first, then prosper. But we look at it as a happy byproduct as opposed to a full blown intention. right? Or the only reason I'm doing something nice for you is to get something from you. And so I've really done this my entire career. And what's interesting is I've rocketed through corporate systems, and some would say have a pretty significant and awesome career, but I've always done it the exact same way. And what's interesting to me is I think we're in a opportunity for a rebirth of that.
I feel
Right?
that too. I feel that too because it's kind of like from the spiritual perspective, or the stations I tune into, the stations Carrie Humber listens to. They talk
Yeah,
about
that's
how we're like we're on the verge of this big shift, into the Aquarius age, and we're all going to change, and everything is opening up. So that's why. What's one of the reasons why 2018 has been so hard, because when you add a lot more light, then a lot more shadow comes to the surface and you get to witness it. And it's not fun sometimes to witness a shadow because it's icky and, it doesn't feel good and it's uncomfortable. But that is a byproduct of the light rising. And as the light rises, like, we become more aware, and we become more aware of what? We become more aware of truth. And
right.
then we become aware of our knowing, which is the truth that lives within us that connects with the greater truth. And then we know things. So as we know things, for example, that's why now it's so easy to spot when someone's trying to sell you something just because they want it, not because they don't care about, it's like you can tell now if somebody,
Right.
there's no more deception around it. Like, you just know that someone's not, it doesn't feel right.
Exactly. And so my style, even on a sales or a business side, is as a sales professional, I don't ever want to sell you anything, but I always want you to buy a lot from me. Therefore, it's incumbent upon me to create an environment for you to buy. What that means is it's my responsibility to have you want what I have, which means it's my job to give you the reasons why that's a viable choice. And it's nothing more than that, and it's funny, in this spiritual walk on my side too, this even happens spiritually, is nobody likes to be sold. They want you to create the environment. There was a pretty good book, and a guy that was very representative of this, that he created an environment for people to want what he had, not try to force it to them. But I've even done this in audiences. I've said, spiritually, this principle holds true, and I can give you the example. Have you heard about Jesus?
Yeah,
Well,
have you heard about Jesus? Yeah.
that's
He's
selling.
a beautiful teacher.
Yeah,
And his message gets distorted because of all the like
that's
sales that goes
that's
around
the
it. And then
selling.
people, and what
Where
that does to people is it makes them go like this, get away from me.
exactly.
you know,
Whereas if I share my near-death experience, and after my prayer and climbing onto a cloud and the peace that I achieved, and I don't know if that's of interest to you, but if it is, I'd love to have that conversation.
well, so tell us
That's
about
creating an environment to buy.
that's create, well, it's creating an environment to open to a possibility
Right?
that you hear someone else's experience from their heart. It's like the I place. In all my spiritual groups, like, not all of them, but most of the ones that are high integrity, we speak from the I place. It's not like, oh, we all do this or this is true for everybody. It's like, this was my experience. This is what I experienced. And it touched my heart, and here's how. And then if someone's going to be moved by that, that's a beautiful thing, right? And then that opens a door for them to choose it for themselves, because we're all sovereign, we're all autonomous. We have free will.
Exactly. And that was my situation. Was I was walking along, well, 8 days earlier, I was going to a speaking event, balanced a box of books on my knee, flipped open the back of my Lexus, ducked underneath it, whack, hit me in the back of the head. Cold cocked me. And what I didn't know at the time is it actually dissected a vessel in my brain. And what that means is the inner and the outer walls of the pica artery dissected, they split. And so I walked around for 8 days with a low grade headache, 2 or 3 on a 10 scale. I'm a guy, that means you don't do anything about it, you just put up with it. And until I was walking along, and all of a sudden my legs stopped. And all of a sudden I looked down at my feet, and I was standing on two tingling stumps, and told my foot to move, and my foot said no. And then I became disoriented and started to fall backwards. Well, luckily there was a railing behind me. I grabbed it. I was walking with some friends. They threw a chair underneath me quick, and I dropped into it. Well, I was in the middle of a full-blown cerebellum stroke.
Mm.
And if you understand the brain at all, the cerebellum is responsible for speech, memory, fine motor skills, walking, talking, vertigo, all sorts of stuff a professional speaker kind of needs.
Kind of need those
They
things.
kind of need those skills. And I took this full-blown hit to my cerebellum, and literally went to the emergency room, five hours plus in the emergency room, and they released me with a major migraine.
Wow. They didn't
And,
catch it.
no, they missed it completely, and there were some spiritual things that happened there in the emergency room that I found out later from some friends. They were praying over me and doing some cool things, and um, but when I went back to the hotel after the emergency room, the pain got so bad that I cried out, "God help!" And I heard an audible drop to your knees.
Mm.
And so I slid out of bed, and I had my elbows up on the bed, and I said, "Lord, I've been teaching your plan and timing is perfect for the last couple of years now. I do not pretend to understand this plan or this timing. I do not believe your plan is to call me home. I do not believe your plan is to maim me or disable me. So I'm choosing to believe your plan is to wake me up. Duly noted, you got my attention.
You got my attention.
And I'm supposed to use this event to serve and save myself and others physically and spiritually for the rest of my life. And if that, in fact, is your will for my life, I ask for your wisdom and guidance going forward so that I execute that appropriately. And if that's not your will for my life, I just want you to know whatever you got planned, I'm good with." And I went to climb back up into bed, and I actually climbed onto a cloud. Total peace,
Mm.
zero pain, fell straight asleep, woke up the next morning, went on set, shot 3 TV shows, went to a neurologist afterwards. He said, "I think you've got a trapped occipital nerve radiating headaches. I want an MRI." Couldn't get that until the next day. Read it 48 hours after the event. His first words: "Get your ass to the hospital, check into ICU. You've had a stroke." And then I spent 6 days in intensive care. And I swear I was not there for them to keep me alive. They were trying to figure out why I was alive.
Mm-hmm.
They just kept on questioning. There's no, he shouldn't be. There was a whole case of the shouldn'ts, right? You shouldn't be able to talk, shouldn't remember anything, shouldn't be able to walk, shouldn't be able to use his body, shouldn't be able, blah, 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 blah. And they couldn't understand because they looked at the physical damage in my brain, and they couldn't, they couldn't figure this looks like this, should mean this, but it means this, totally. And so it was it's been a really interesting time, and that was a week ago today, 4 years ago, a week ago today.
Wow. Now that's one of those profound life moments where you touch the divine and you have an
There's no doubt.
experience of it. It's not like there's one thing to read a book, right? And to
Right.
go to church and have the teachings and sit there and listen and have like this mental processing of it, right? But there's another whole thing to be inside your body and have like a connection,
Yeah.
an experience of the divine. The
Yeah.
voice
There's
you heard, like everything. It's like,
anybody. It's intriguing to me because I have been sent in my speaking career and travel around the world. I've been sent 19 messengers, and
did you need 19?
I must have. I
Okay.
Either I'm a slow study or I got a big task and they keep on refining me.
Yeah. So these messengers, when did they start?
Oh gosh, probably 10 years ago or
Yeah.
thereabouts. And um, just, as it first happens, it's part of the, they say something that either there's not a chance that they can know or that a piece of guidance or a piece of something, and it's fascinating on one side because you sit there and you go, for me, it has been always at this point where you're kind of at the end of it all. You're worn out. You're like, that, screw it. And then all of a sudden there's this guidance that shows up. And so they just want you to, like, one was number 7 down in Houston. I finished a presentation I was doing, and I did what I did after the presentation. My job was to talk to the people immediately close to me, and I turned to a woman and I said, "So what do you think?" And she said, "For a topic I was totally uninterested in before I got here, I'm now interested." And I said, "Well, that's really interesting. If you weren't interested in the topic, why would you come here in the first place?" And she said, "Well, Holy Spirit sent me, of course." And I said, "Oh, really? Can I ask
Wow.
you? Can I ask you to do what?" And she said, "To give you a message." And I said, "Have we ever met before?" And she goes, "No." I said, "Can I sit down?" And she goes, "I think you should." And so I
Wow.
sat down and I said, "So you were sent to give me a message?" And she said, "Yeah." And I said, "Okay, I'll bite. What's the message?" And she said, "Although you believe you're totally in the wrong place, you won't be here long. God wants you to know your steps are perfectly ordered." And that
Wow.
that whole process, and I did think I was in the wrong place. I told the CEO of that company we shouldn't have been doing those events. That it was just going to cost him a bunch of money. It wasn't going to work. A variety of different things, and within 30 days, I stopped working with him. And so you know, now I know that might, to some, that might sound like, yeah, right, or you can take that however you take it. All I know is I lived it. And immediately upon that, certain things and certain activities started to change. And with many of these things, that has happened, right? With many of these times or these messages or different things. And so, you know, I started creating an evidence log actually. And,
Oh,
you know,
that's awesome. And evidence. See, now I encourage people to do that because write down the things because your ego mind will totally try to deny it later. But if you write it down, you can't deny it. Like it is there, it happened, and you remember it. Oh, that's right. It's amazing how much you forget if you don't write it down.
yeah. And it's pretty fascinating when it happens. And so again, it's like um, this is how you and I started talking about all of this. It's like, okay, so now you've lived through this, fast forward through some of this, and you've got these different evidences that have happened, and you kind of go, why me? And one of one of my guides said, you made a declaration that you were here to serve the planet. God heard you, believed you, and won't let you out of it. And she said, hold on.
Hold on for your hats, folks. Like
She
here it
said,
comes.
your life will never be the same.
Scott,
And
that scares me because it doesn't scare me. It excites me. Let's just change that. Because I also made a similar thing. Like I've made claims like that. Like my heart wants to serve like as many people as I can on the
yep.
planet. Like I want to serve 1 billion people. Like that number just popped out of my head. You know what I said? I want to serve 1 billion people on the planet. And I want to open up to the magic and spirit. And so those words came out of my mouth too. So now I'm sitting here with you going, oh, that's right. Like God's listening. Like God's
Oh,
like,
well,
yes.
that was the biggest thing as I talked to her. I said, why me? He heard you, He
He
believed you.
agreed. Yeah, he's like,
He'll
yeah,
never let you out of it.
and never let you out of it because now you're doing it. And you know what? This is what it means. That's a bid for power. In my world, in like the earth-based spirituality world, we call that a bid for power. Like make this bid for power. And if God like agrees with it, it's like, okay, you just made that bid for power. It doesn't mean like you get it tomorrow. No. Far more
Oh no,
interesting. You get to take the journey to become the person that can actually do that.
that's
That's what it
that's
means. You get to take the journey with the lessons to become the kind of person in your container, in your being, that you can integrate and embody to become the person that does that.
and that's exactly why he has to send a lot of helpers.
Hey, maybe that's why I always get so much help, Scott, because people are always reaching out and, I get so many. We help each other. That is really the truth of it, is that we help
Yeah.
each other and that we don't really, like you were talking about, that you said you want to help with the global, like you want to help the whole planet. And I feel the same. And I always think, well, they always show me this stage. Like I get these visions of this stage and I'm out on the stage and I'm like rocking it and everyone's like, yeah. And I don't know what I'm going to do, but some healing or something, or I'll do healing together or something like that. It's really fun. And there's like thousands of people out there, right? And I for a while it freaked me out at first because I'm like, that's too many people. Like I can't, I think I could stand in front of that many people, right? It would scare me. But then I realized, wait a second, it's metaphorical.
Yeah.
Everything is metaphorical. We talked about this, I think, when we did our chat. Like it's all metaphorical. Like when you get these visions or you get these downloads, like metaphorically speaking, yeah, because if you work on yourself and you heal yourself and then you work and you heal your family, like there's like all those people that are more healed that are going out with their vibrations of love and they're touching more people. And so, yeah, it's exponential, and everybody listens to this. And as you do your work, because you got inspired by something that was said here, like it's like the love virus gets spread like from one person to the next person. I'm pretty sure, yeah, you did touch a billion people. You just didn't even
When
realize it.
well, the one of the things, and I say it in almost every talk I do, and I say it purposely. Two telling, two telling, two telling, two telling, two 32 times covers everybody on the planet. Somehow that's how we came up with U plus one, because I said we all have our stated goals of wanting to touch a billion lives positively or millions of lives positively, but nobody wants to start with just one. And Sean and I were at an event. He said, like, I'm your plus one at this event, and you're my plus one. And I said, I know, two telling, two telling, two telling, two 32 times covers everybody on the planet. Nobody wants to start with just one. And he said, yeah, it's nothing more than you plus one. And it was like I got this lightning bolt that hit me. And I said, that's it. We're going to start a movement where we start caring about people one at a time. And where everybody, you and I both would love to have 1,000 people watching this. But if we have 500 people watch this that share it with one, that's still 1,000
That is.
or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's just
Or we have
it's
a
what
really zealous person who loves everything that we said, and they share it out to 1,000 people, or they share it out to 25 people that each share it to somebody, like. So like the message is going to get spread, and also it gets spread psychically, because I'm in that space, Scott, like
Yeah, no, well, but that's what I'm saying.
it
So it's
ripples through
really
the group
about
consciousness.
how can so that's why when I saw your note about the show and things like that, so my response is, how can I be your plus one? How can I how can I plus up your efforts of the good that you're working to do on the planet? If I can be a little part of that and be your plus one, even just for this moment, I've done something, because we don't know where this ripple is going to go. We
No, we
don't
don't.
know who's going to hear this that goes, oh, wow, this makes sense, or whatever. And so it's more of it's not that we want to simply help one person, but if it's kind of the clearing your mind that it's okay to help one at a time. Because if enough people help one at a time, we're going to be helping a lot of people at a time. And so that's why it's really a movement. It's really a community. It's how do we put enough people together that truly have similar hearts, similar minds, that have a desire to be of greater service to each other, to treat people with dignity, honor, and respect, to do fair business with them, to treat people the way you're supposed to treat people, nicely. Just be nice. It's not hard.
Well, be nice and be truthful.
Yeah, exactly.
Because sometimes being nice is a lie. If you're not really, sometimes this is where like I bring in my little coaching thing for on my journey, I would be really nice, but then I wasn't being honest with myself or with the other person because I wanted to be nice. So now I'm truthful in a compassionate way.
And that works.
And that works for me because then, and sometimes that is interpreted as being nice. Some people will say I'm nice, but really but I will tell the truth,
That's all
even
you
if
can.
that causes a little sting, just because that's
That's
sting of love.
I sat with a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago. We were having coffee, and he goes, "So can I be frank with you?" And I said, "I've never really known you not to be." And so he shared something with me, and he was right. He said, "You're so phenomenally awesome at a certain thing you do, and you're not doing it, and that makes no sense. You're really cheating people out of it." And that's not the reason I wasn't, but I had been hurt,
Mm,
and okay, I'm human. I had done it. I had done it very successfully. I had made somebody hundreds of millions of dollars, and they took advantage of me.
that's a hard
Well,
thing when that
it,
happens.
well, but I didn't. I thought I had processed it. I thought I had cleared it. I thought I had gotten rid of it. I was wrong. I hadn't.
It's layers.
But I know. Well, I think I finally got that layer, and it's amazing what's happened since. What's opened up, and how much more joy I have, and how much more fun I'm having, and novel concept, right? Who
Yeah, we
was
should
who
have
was
fun.
holding us back? Me.
Right? Well, it's all these judgments we have. Like we were talking about the fact that you went through this life altering situation, where you almost lost your life. Like you should have lost your life. But of course, we know that there was a divine intervention and that was happening so that you could learn a lesson. But after that, it's kind of like what happens in your mind when you're like, wow, my life got saved. Now what? Like I had to make something of myself, right? Like you made the big claim to God, like I'm going to serve the planet. So how do you process that, like in yourself?
Well, I evidently not well. They because that actually did become a question over time. Is wow, there's a lot of pressure in that, right? Because you want to fulfill it, and you because it's so big potentially, it's what is it? And oh, is that it? Or is that or boy, I maybe I shouldn't do this because that doesn't seem big enough for something to, I mean, and that was part of actually what this friend helped me with is, you know, you saved you to do this work because higher source, God, whatever. I'm a Christian, so I choose to call it God, but God is within me, and therefore we did this together, right? But I looked at it as a separation, as opposed to a sovereignty and things like that. And that's what's really actually helped is realizing, oh, I can use the talents and capabilities I've always had, and just wherever I can add positive accomplishment to others and to myself, do it,
Yeah, it
the
doesn't
right
have to be
way.
complicated. And matter of fact, it's so funny how my experience of God, great spirit, source, is that it's never complex.
Yeah.
Like
And
it's
well,
always
that
so
was it.
stupidly easy. Like that
So
we
so
go,
that's why when you ask the question, so how did you handle that? And the answer is not well. I mean, I felt I was doing the best I could with it. I felt that I was doing well. I felt like I was making progress. I felt like I was making the right decisions. But the paths were not opening, and that some people would call that a clue. I mean, you're working, you're working, you're working, you're working, and it's not really um, opening. You're efforting, and your efforts aren't being rewarded. And so all of a sudden you kind of stop for a second, reevaluate, say, I'm not going to effort. I'm just going to intend. And all of a sudden stuff, you start getting phone calls and things start happening and this and that. And you go, oh, gosh, this would have been much easier this whole time.
Well, what I found is that one word that people use is alignment. Like when things are aligned, like when you're aligned to the situation in truth, well, then it'll flow pretty well. Maybe another way is kind of like when you have the right idea about it, or you're holding it in a way that is in truth. Because I don't think it's going to happen if you're like, let's say you made this big claim and you said, I'm going to serve as many people on the planet as I can. Like, that's my intention. And God's like, yes, awesome. I love that. But then if you take responsibility as if it's your responsibility, like if you claimed more responsibility than you could possibly do, God's not going to let you do that, because that's just going to hurt you. Like,
Yeah.
but if you know what I mean? Like, so like when you have it in right relationship, like I love your U+1, because can you do that? Absolutely. It's within your power,
Mm-hmm.
totally within your power as a human being to touch one life at a time. Like you can do that. You can do that. And you can not only do that yourself, but yes, you can inspire other people to do that too. And so, yes, that is a movement that you can do without hurting yourself.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I think that we have many mutual friends who all have a stated desire to make the planet a better place. I mean, we got some cool friends,
We do have cool friends. I love
and
my friends.
and and yet many of them, some admit it, some don't, have figured out the world's a pretty heavy place.
Sure
You know,
can be.
trying to trying to save the world by yourself, or feel like you're on a mission to save
You're
the
like
world.
Atlas, you know?
That's exact. It's pretty heavy,
It
right?
is.
And so I think what's happening is a lot of our really cool friends are coming to very similar awarenesses at very similar times, going, maybe I could use some help with this.
Yeah, maybe we can work together to do it,
Yeah,
right?
maybe we could team up. We could do, like Zooms together that could go on, and we could spread this message, and people don't even have to be live. They could get it recorded, and all those kinds of things.
And
And
here's the cool thing is like your biggest opportunity to do a huge impact is right at home.
yeah,
Like that is the coolest thing I've realized lately. Is like, because I got a lot of messages, like I know that I'm a way shower. I'm here to way show, show the way to love. And you do that by demonstrating it, right? It's a demonstration because, like you said, sales don't work with this kind of thing. So you do it by invitation and demonstration, period. And it's
yeah,
anybody's option to go along on the ride. Like that's their sovereign choice. And you don't mess with that. So at home, though, I was not showing the way I felt I should be showing the way. And so I have got a whole new attitude now about, like if I'm here to show the way, then and I'm a way shower, and I got planted maybe in a family with where I may be a little more ahead on the path, because we're all equal. Like there's nobody better than anybody else.
right,
But maybe I'm a little more ahead on the path on personal development because I put a lot of focus into it. Like I'm constantly working on myself. So if I'm like that and I'm a little farther ahead on the path, then I can't be mad at my family members for not understanding what I'm talking about if I'm a way shower. Like,
right,
give that up. Like, forgive people for being where they're at in their understanding of love. Like, there's so many layers to pass through on the way to pure love. And we're all doing our best to get free of the conditioning of our planet. We're all doing our best to rise above to a higher frequency of love, all of us, wherever we are. And, if you're buried 10,000 feet under the hucha, the heavy energy, well, it's pretty dang hard to get to love from there.
yeah.
So give ourselves a break,
Well, and that's exactly it. It's just, I the way I say it is, we've got to get back to respect, honor, and dignity.
Mm.
Respect each other, respect honor each other, allow each other to have the dignity of our space and what we do and how we do it and whatever, and work when given permission to give guidance.
And stop
And
judging each other and judging ourselves. Like that
it's a
doesn't help anybody.
no, it really doesn't, and we've I said it on another show that I did earlier this week of learn to be unoffendable. I mean, oh my God.
Don't take it
You-
personally.
Every
That's so hard. I know it's so hard because you feel it and you're like, but I feel it and therefore it's personal. And it's not. It's just your stuff that got, your button got pushed when this other person had their thing. And so everybody can forgive each other because we're surrounded by a sea of conditioning that we're all trying to break free of. Like you're swimming in trash, like sometimes on earth, like we're swimming in trash a
yeah.
little bit, and we're trying to clean it up. And so we're going to bump up against each other and it's going to be yucky for a moment. Okay.
Well, that's
Forgive it.
exactly it. Choose to be unoffendable. I
Yeah.
mean, we can be offended by anything and everything today, and and so everything is so agenda laden and all. It's just like, really, come on, folks, just be nice to people. You
Just,
know,
put yourself in their shoes if you can.
yeah.
And sometimes when you do that, like if you're an empath, you can actually put yourself in their shoes. And boy, when you feel what they feel like on the inside, you have a lot of compassion.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt about that.
You have a lot of compassion for that person.
Yep.
So you're doing your mission. You figured out what now. What now is take one step at a time, right? Like day by day by day, take one
Hmm.
step at a time.
Yeah, just open yourself up to opportunity. Be aware of potential opportunity. See challenges as opportunity. The opposite side of challenge is opportunity. So the point is everything's a yin and a yang, and it's got to have an opposite side, or it wouldn't be there. Things aren't one dimensional. So if there's a challenge, that means there's an opportunity to solve that challenge, to make yourself better, to make somebody else better, to help them in their path, to do whatever, provide value to them, all those different things. And if we were focusing on providing more value consistently to one another, revenue and income and reward is not going to be an issue.
It would just be flowing around the planet if we stopped
Uh,
like doing this,
And well, that's what currency is.
It's a
The
flow.
word is flow.
Yeah.
And the problem is when we get out of flow, when we
Going to
when we
scarcity.
we go into scarcity or we go into lack begets lack. It was so funny, and this is like the most obscure reference point, but I was talking about this with a friend at the club today. I said there's two Subways about equidistance from our house, Subway sandwich shops. In one of them, they make a really good sandwich. In the other one, you say, as they're making it, what do you want on it? Lettuce, tomato, onion, whatever. Can I have 4 more strands of lettuce to match the 4 that are already on there? It's like,
Oh, wow.
oh my God,
Goodness
right?
sakes.
You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? It's such a lack. It's a demonstration of a lack mentality.
Mhm.
Oh my God, if I put too much on this sandwich is going to be too good. What?
What?
No, I mean, it's if I
You can
put too
only
much,
have so much goodness.
well, that's what but what they're really saying is if I put too much on there, it's going to cost me too much.
Right.
Well, but I can't afford to promote to get people in my shop. So, well, the reason you don't have to promote if you would reward the people by so the lack is actually costing you more than the lack of lack, right? Than the
Yeah.
than
The
the
abundance, the
than
giving.
the than the
Yeah.
abundance. So it was funny because we were talking about how people make strange, people say, well, I only had a half hour for this call. Well, we're 45 minutes into it, but I only had a half hour for it. Why don't you have as much time as it takes? I mean, I get scheduling. I mean, I get that. But at the same time, it's like to say, I only had a half hour because I only had a half hour. You chose to only have a half hour. I chose to have a meaningful conversation. Sometimes that's done in 28 minutes, and sometimes it takes 43 minutes.
Yeah, I don't
And
think my healing clients would like it if I stopped the healing because it was, the end of the hour,
well, that's what I'm
and we
saying.
weren't done yet, like I go till it's done,
Well,
so
that's my point. Is I and I get it because I was highly scheduled for a long time. And with some of this realization is I run a much freer schedule because I'm much more concerned about presence in that event right then and there. If you think about even our chat that we had setting this up, our chat just kind of kept on going on and on
it
and on, and
did.
we both finally went, oh my god, we should probably get on
We
to
should
something else,
probably go, yeah.
right? But it wasn't a, you know i'm I'm so scheduled that it's like,
Or it wasn't a checking out either. Like I've had to work with myself on that too, as I programmed myself, unprogrammed myself from my old ways of being
right.
from our general society. I had to do the healing work. I had to deprogram that. I had to go, you know what? That does not serve. I cannot check out on my client. Like, if it's time, if it's the top of the hour, I just got to be with it. If it's still going on. So I just had to create a gap in between my appointments that was big enough to allow for the next, if it's going to go over, then I'm going to be with spirit and let it go over. It's just how it is until it's done. Till it's done.
That's the way it works.
And be grateful for it. And I don't, and
It's
then
like,
I
wait
don't
a
go
second.
like, oh, well, I didn't get paid for that extra, whatever.
That's right. I've
No.
the 4 points that I wanted to make sure I got into this conversation, I've gotten into, so we can wrap this up whenever
Oh,
you're.
okay.
You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Yeah. I already got my points in, so I'm done with you now.
yeah, no, I mean it's so funny.
It's
I
so
mean
funny.
it and people do that stuff.
They
It's
do.
like,
And so don't check out. Like be present with the,
no, be present in the moment and wherever
and you be with your you plus
conversations.
one. Like,
Yeah, how can we be your plus one? So there's so many times the coolest part of what's going on with everything we're doing with you plus one is just the realness of conversations and people who you would never anticipate opening up and just going, god, I'm so grateful to just have somebody that understands, that would just talk to me.
you can tell the difference. Like when you have a presence conversation versus the standard conversation,
Yeah,
it's a huge difference.
yeah, I mean
It's
it's
not
it's
even the
just
same thing.
it's so awesome. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny. Um, like my business relationships have actually gotten a whole lot closer because we're actually having more fun, because we're probably talking less business and more life
And connecting more.
and connecting more and different things, and so it's amazing when you take down the walls of that it's got to be done this way or whatever. Um, it's fascinating to just kind of
Just
let it
try
evolve.
it maybe. Try to schedule yourself less tightly.
Yeah,
I'll just throw this in. I did a healing with a couple clients last week. And the theme was for both of these clients, the theme was that they had put themselves in a box. Like they had put themselves energetically in this little tiny box. And they were keeping themselves in this box. And they couldn't there's no room to move. Like when you're all cramped up inside that little energetic box, it says, oh, I got to be in this thing. And I guided them in a way that they could see that that's what they were doing to themselves. And then I'm like, well, do you want that? They're like, no. I said, okay, well, what would make it safe for you to get rid of the box? So we created a big bubble, like a bigger bubble, and we put some protection around it so there's like bigger space. And then I invited them to make it even bigger, because bubbles can go bigger, like just make it a little even bigger. Like maybe you could have a little house inside that bubble. They just make it bigger. And then we were able to get rid of the box. And their
yeah,
lives just start to open up because they're not containing themselves in these tight little moments like, oh, I've got 15 minutes here and I got 15 minutes here and I got 30 minutes there. And then I don't have any time to even go to the bathroom because I got to go to the next thing. And I like here, you can't take 3 minutes to close your eyes and rebalance your nervous system. There's a problem in your day. If
yeah,
you can't take 3 minutes to nurture yourself back into presence, there is something askew in your calendar. You need to do
No,
that.
no doubt about it. And it just we all if we would all just enjoy ourselves more. I'm speaking to me here too,
Oh
right?
yeah, I tell myself this all the time.
Goof off
Goof off.
more, have more fun,
Hmm.
uh, do what you love to do. I was training one of my clients the other day, and another speaker friend came up, and I introduced him. We were in a public setting, and I introduced him, and she goes, "Wow, you're learning from one of the top." And he goes, "No, not the top. He's the best." And I was like, "Okay, you
That's a
guys just
nice compliment.
yeah, you guys keep on arguing with each other, okay?" But it was just so fun. It was so gratifying. And then I said, when after she left, I said, "Thank you so much." I said, "By the way, I'm having a blast coaching you." And he goes, "Well, we're already past our the time that I committed to pay you for." And I said, "I told you we were done when we're done. We ain't done." Right? But that's what it's about, right? It's the yes,
Yeah,
you've got the rule, these are the rules, quote unquote, but you do what you do to ensure that they get
the transformation.
the experience that they need.
Mhm.
And he goes, at the end, he was like, "Oh my God." He said, you've changed 25 years in our 2 hours together." And I said, "Well, that's awesome. Now the question is, are you going to be able to keep it there?"
Well, that's another whole question. So,
Yeah.
well, great. It looks like you learned a lot from your experience, and I would venture to say that you are applying, you're saying what now? Well, you're doing the what now. You're doing all the what now.
Well, but I was searching so hard that I
The answer
wasn't.
was so simple. Yeah.
Angela, just do what you do. Talk to people, work with people, share your expertise, share what you've done. We're only as broad as our experiences. And one of the things that has bugged me, you see so many coaches and so many people who are coaching on stuff they have never done.
You got to do it, folks. You
And
got to embody it. You can't, there's no
if
skipping
if
steps.
if you ain't been there,
You can't.
uh,
Mm-mm.
you just, I mean,
You got to go.
you can learn a lot of things, but I mean, there's certain things, if you want to know how to do it, you better have done it, And so, and that's what I've come to realize. I've been very blessed. As somebody said the other day, "Gosh, you've been in sales for how long now?" And I said, "Well, I started when I was 4." And they go, "No, seriously." And I
Funny.
said, "No, seriously. My dad, our family was going to the Toastmasters International Convention in LA.
Wow.
I was we were on an Amtrak train going from Milwaukee to LA, and I went up and down the aisle yelling, 'Tickets, tickets, who needs tickets?' And people would say, 'I do.' And I'd scribble on a piece of paper, rip it off a pad, hand it to them. They'd hand me change. I was selling people tickets to the train they were already on at 4. So I've,
Wow.
I've been kind of cut out for this,
Yeah.
to, so the point is that, when you, in 1960 something, when you arrive in LA as a kid, 4-year-old kid with $52 in change in your pocket, it might have set a pattern in place.
It could have set a little incentive pattern. Well, definitely you're a blessing. I'm so glad that you came on the show today. It's such a blessing to talk to you and share your wisdom. Thank you for being part of this. And if somebody would like to know more, they can go to u+1.com, like on the banner
you
there, right?
u+1.com. You can go to scott@u+1.com as my email address, scott@scottschilling.com. I don't make myself hard to get a hold
Well, that's a good thing because you're starting a movement. You can't be hard to get a hold of.
of.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show. And,
Sure.
I always end with kisses. So we're going to give kisses and you can participate if you like. But here they come, everybody. Mwah.
Nice.
Love you. Love you. Love you. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. I'm so glad you tuned into Soul Nectar Show. I hope that you got a lot out of today's broadcast. And thank you once again to Scott. And we'll see you guys next week.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.